Welcome to the lecture number 3 of how does data get collected. So this is the lecture number 3 of my series, data analysis course for beginners, right? And this is where I am making you completely familiar about data and its various aspects. In the first aspect or in the first lecture, we covered what is data analysis. In the second, where the data is present, and third is how does data get collected. Very important. So as a data analyst, you know that the data that is being given to you, who has collected that and how they have collected it, right? So that is an important thing to know for a data analyst. As a beginner data analyst, once you become experienced, this becomes usual to you, but if you are learning, then it is important topic for you. Okay, so how does this data get collected? Well, first, by humans. You have government employees as a human, right? Private company, shopkeeper. As an example of, there are humans who are working at different places and they are collecting the data. Now let's see some scenarios. For example, in case of government employees collects population data is one scenario. Companies data, like in an entire country, you have the various different companies who are performing and they are collecting the data, like the company name, where they are having the establishment, the number of employees, and so on and so forth, all of that information. Nature's data, right? They capture the information about rain, the monsoon or winters, how impactful or less winter or summers, all of that, right? So they basically kind of pick up, or they basically collect all of this data just so that make sure the entire ecosystem in the country is working perfectly or not, or wherever the deviation is, they can take appropriate measure. So this is a scenario by humans. Another example is by private companies. Private companies, what data they collect? They collect the information about the employees. Who are the employees that are working in a company, like the employee name, employee number, salary, joining date, department, so on and so forth, right? So they collect the data. Projects data, for example, employees are working under which department, what is the project, project name, project start date, end date, all that sort of things. And then department data, like what is the name of the department, how many employees who are working, various different designations, salaries, so on and so forth. So this is the some examples of private companies that are the employees in private companies who collects the data for the entire company. Third scenario is basically a shopkeeper. So shopkeeper day in day out job is to keep the inventory of item purchased, sold, customer credit, etc., right? So if let's say you are an individual store owner, or you are as big as a shop in a big mall, or a really big shop that you have where hundreds of employees are really working. At the end of the day, you may want to capture all of this basic information so that you can analyze it, or you can keep it as a record plus analyze it to better understand whether your shop, your employees are performing really good or not, right? So this is an example of data gets collected by humans. Now, as I said, data collected by humans. Second is data collected by electronic devices, right? Like computer, the server, the phone, IoT sensors, all of those are basically different electronic devices which captures the data. Okay, let's see some scenarios. All right. So first is computer. What does computer captures? Your screen time. So they have mini software inside it, or mini programs which basically do a different types of job. One of the job is screen time. How much screen time you are spending every day or every week, they capture that. Software usage, right? Every software comes with the usage terms or the license terms and so situations, things like those. So they capture the software usage information. License usage is also a similar type of scenario. Whether your license is expired or not, they validate it and gives you the information. The file details, what type of file you are creating, Word file, PowerPoint file, Excel file, what file you are creating, what is the size of the file, the location of the file, the privacy of the file, all of those types of things computer is saving it based on the configuration that is being set, right? So this is the first example of computer. Let's see the server example. So server is basically captures the information about when the usage is really high, when the usage is low, what is the incident, and the user details. So incident like something is not working, right, or a program fails. Server basically capture in the logging area so that you can evaluate the logs later and see how many incidents were logged for today. And every day, if the number of incidents are logging, then you can see whether incidents are improving, that means they are going down, or incidents are increasing, which is not the situation you may want. Maybe it is because the high usage, the incidents are occurring, and you may want to increase the size of the servers as one of the resolution. So that's basically the different information that they capture. Now let's look at the phone. So phone again captures the screen types. You have the number of applications or the softwares that you have, the GB allocated per use, that means the storage that is there is something gives you the detail whether how much you can further store the data or you cannot store the data at all, and the number of files plus many more other things that it can store, right? And then you have the fourth one is IoT sensors, like for example fitness watch, heat from the sun is captured by, let's say, various different IoT sensors devices. Temperature control in the fridge is also one of those. House temperature control, airplane sensors, which generates a huge amount of data. So IoT sensors are becoming more and more famous these days because every company wants to capture how the devices or how the environment is basically responding and whether this can really work based on the settings that they have done. For example, airplane sensors keeps providing a huge amount of data every single minute based on the activities of, let's say, engines or the overall as an aircraft based on the number of sensors that it is having, so that they know fuel indication or, let's say, heating up and things like heating up of engine or things like those, right, which is very, very important. So IoT sensors are becoming very, very famous these days. All right. Okay, all right, sorry about that, that was my alarm. And then with these examples, I hope first of all you have got it, like how does data get collected just at a high level as a different scenarios, how this data is basically being collected at various different locations, and what are those scenarios. Now in each of this case, what do you think one additional case that you can provide? For example, government collects population data, companies data, nature data, comma, one more example if you can share. So keep adding one example in each of this scenario, and you can use comments, or if you are in my training, then you can come in a live Q&A training and tell me what is the another scenario that you have captured and what do you know about that. That way your learning will become really solid and you will be able to get the maximum out of this training. With that, thank you so much, and I'll meet you in the next lecture.